Hello everybody, it's me, it's PokemonTripHD, and welcome back to some more Dragalia Lost content. In today's video, I am going to be going over the reroll tier list. Now, this is of course my reroll tier list. It is not the definitive. This is what you gotta do, or you're not gonna win in the game. Anyways, I don't know how you win in the game, but that's not what this is gonna be. This is, like I said, my opinion. However, I do have my opinion backed up with some information from the game, so I will of course say all my thoughts and give reasoning as to why my thoughts are what they are. Now, this video is going to cover both the tutorial summon, what adventure you should choose. So I will be ranking the original 9 5-stars in the game into tier lists. So I made 3 tier lists: tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1. Shout out to Joshua Freeman for actually giving me the idea to make this video. Again, if you have any video ideas you want to see me do, just leave a comment and I'll of course take them into consideration. So I'll be ranking the original 9 5-stars because in your tutorial summon that you get at the very beginning of the game as a new player, you are guaranteed one of those original 9 5-stars. So I'll be ranking them, which ones are the best and which ones are the worst, that you should probably aim for the best. So I ranked, like I said, into 3 different tiers, with tier 1 being tier 1 being the best, sorry about that, and tier 3 being the worst. So that's going to be the main information on this video. However, I will also say, besides your tutorial summon where you're guaranteed a 5-star, you're actually getting a lot of Wormite as an early player. So what I do recommend you do is buy a couple 10-folds, just I would say maximum 3 10-folds, because other than that you're probably going to be playing for too long that you probably don't want to restart. So I would say 3 10-folds maximum before you hop into re-rolling. You'll probably just get up to 2, and that'd be the best. Of course, just reroll on whatever banner is out until you get a few 5-stars. Now, what 5-stars should you be aiming for? Honestly, just go for your wife or husbando. Everything in this game is able to be cleared with a 4-star or even 3 stars. So you don't need a 5-star at all for any content in this game. Everything can be cleared with a 4-star. Again, re-rolling is completely optional. You do not need to re-roll at all in this game. Re-rolling, like I said, is just completely optional if there's a wife or husbando you want, or if you just want a faster start with, better 5-stars. I recommend you re-roll so you can get the fastest start and you can make the most progress as fast as you can. But like I said, it is completely unnecessary, and it is up to you whether you would like to re-roll or not to re-roll. Now, something I do want to mention: if you are re-rolling, do not link your Nintendo account to your game unless you want to keep that account for maybe future use or something, because if you do that, that account is there to stay. So do not link your Nintendo account unless you found the account you want to have or the account you want to keep or whatever. Now then, I think it's actually time to hop into the rerolling. Like I was saying, you get 2 or 3 10-folds at the beginning of your thing with your easy Wormite that you're able to collect. And what you should be aiming for, like I said, is any 5-star that's your wife or husbando, an adventure or dragon. But if you don't have any wife or husbando, or you haven't found yours yet, what I do recommend you aim for are 5-star dragons. Now, 5-star dragons, I don't recommend you go for any 5-star dragons, because there are 5-star dragons like, say, Jean d'Arc that give HP plus 40%. Now, as a new player, you might not know what this means. What it does is it increases the HP of your adventure by 40%, so it makes them live longer. However, this isn't very useful in endgame content like Mercurial Gauntlet or even some high dragon trials. You don't need HP dragons. You really want DPS. This game is all about how much damage you can deal, so you're not really gonna want to run too much HP dragons. So what you would run instead are things like Cerberus. They have strength on them, strength plus 40%. These are much better in the end game content, so go for any 5-star strength dragon and you should be good. Like I said, you don't need 5-star strength dragons to complete the end game content, but it does help out a lot in the future. And trust me, you'll thank me later if you have a bunch of 5-star strength dragons lying around. You could always sunstone them and max and bind them, but that's a different topic for a different video. Like I said, just aim for 5-star strength dragons. If you can get a matching element adventure and strength dragon, I highly recommend that. There's some other good strength dragons like, say, Gilgamesh, who offer not up to par with Cerberus at 40% strength, but instead it's 35% strength. But they also add some other side effect like shadow resistance or crit damage, etc., etc. I believe pure strength dragons are better for the most part. However, if you do get something like Gilgamesh, don't be too mad, because they are still very useful and they will help out. Again, if you get a matching element, say you got Albert and Gilgamesh, that's a fine start. That's definitely a really good start, so don't worry too much. There's also other dragons like Poseidon that give a split between HP and strength, and these so far are not very useful. But if you do get a good adventure that you like, as well as a Poseidon, you might as well keep the account. Like I said, rerolling, it's more of a want, not a need. So that's the main thing I have to say. Now let's actually hop into my ranking of the original 9 5-stars. So like I said, I did make three tier lists. So tier 3, this is actually my tier 3 out of the 9 original 5-stars. So I'm going to go over them in right to left because I have the worst on the right and the best on the left. So let's talk first of all Nefaria. So I rate Nefaria as actually the worst 5-star out of the original 9, and she's actually my waifu. I like her the most out of all the original 9, so that's super sad, but I do think she's the worst, and for reasons that I'll go into right now. First of all, she's a bow, as you can see at the top. She's a bow, and she's shadow, which means there's a lot of great shadow units that can do a lot of DPS, and she's a bow. Bow is one of the worst weapon types in the game. That automatically makes her really in a struggling position. Her abilities, which are over here, she has paralysis resistance, which is good, and she can be useful for, you know, probably high Jupiter. She has blinded Punisher and full HP equals blindness plus 60%. Now blindness is an affliction. Afflictions are not super useful in endgame content. You really can't afflict it. High dragons and Mercurial Gauntlet, you can do some afflictions, but overall you don't want to rely on afflictions. So that's the reason I have Nefaria rated so low. Her skills, again, her first skill is pretty good. Her second skill is, however, like I said, not good. You cannot really afflict endgame bosses, and this is pretty much a wasted skill in that terms. So that's my rating on why Nefaria is down there. Again, she's my waifu, but I do have to rate her objectively. Next up, we have Hawk. He's a bow. Like I said, bow is the worst weapon type in the game currently, so that automatically Hawk is down there. His skills, again, second skill is exactly like Nefaria's. Hunter's Creed is it's stun instead of blindness like Nefaria, and his first skill pretty much the exact same thing as Nefaria. He's pretty much Nefaria but for wind. However, Hawk's resistances are freeze rather than bog. Bog is a better resistance for endgame content. Again, he's pretty much the exact same thing as Nefaria, just for stun. I would actually, I think switching these two like that is probably better. I think Nefaria is better than Hawk. Just because, you know, paralysis resistance. So I would rate it like that. Nefaria might even be ahead of Zainfried, I don't know, and maybe ahead of Azalith. Honestly, these three on the left, you can kind of interchange them. Hawk is definitely the worst out of them, though. Alright, now let's talk about Zainfried. Zainfried is a Lance. Lance is a much better weapon type. He's water, meaning his endgame content will be High Brunhilde. I also forgot to mention Hawk's endgame content is High Mercury with Bog Res. So High Brunhilde is burn. And luckily for Zainfried, he actually has burn res, so he can be useful there. He is actually pretty useful there. He has Dragon Time and Dragon's Claws, meaning he revolves around transforming into a dragon, which is a really unique playstyle, honestly. Only him and Mim kind of have this kind of dragon playstyle that they have. However, that playstyle is better on, much better on Mim, actually. Way better on Mim, because Mim can kind of charge up her own dragon gauge by herself, and Zainfried cannot, and it's better for longer content. So Zainfried can be useful in longer content, like facility events and such, but there's a much better water adventure for facility events, so that's the reason I have Zainfried way down here. And his two skills, they're actually not terrible. You know, increases the team strength and then an attacking skill, but he's just outclassed by so many units. You know, just for water lances, you get Elisand for free, and she is much better. Not only Elisand, Fjorm is also around, and Fjorm is again much better than Zainfried. So that's why I have Zainfried rated so low. Sorry about that cut. So let's talk about Azalith. So Azalith is a flame dagger, meaning her endgame content that she's going to be useful in is High Midgard Stormer, and that's actually very easy, so you wouldn't worry too much about getting a certain adventure for that. However, even for High Midgard Stormer, she is rocking sleep res rather than stun res, so even that hurts her too much. She has Broken Punisher, which is okay. It's not a terrible ability, but there are much better abilities out there. And then Flurry Debilitator, meaning that she has a higher chance of inflicting debuffs when the combo count is 15 or higher. Now, what kind of debuffs, you might be asking? Well, the second skill allows for her to inflict defense drops. However, those defense drops last very short, and it's not even guaranteed to do it. And it's also very short, you know, you only get it for 15 seconds that you can inflict debuffs, and it's only on your normal attacks. So if you use a skill, you're not going to be able to inflict debuffs. All that combined, you know, it makes her debuffs really not so potent compared to other debuffs in the game. So that's the reason Evlis is very low, as well as her first skill. It takes very long to actually get this skill off. It has such a long iframe, and you actually lose DPS when you use this skill. So that's the reason I have Azalith so low. Again, she's a dagger, so she has the crit rate up co ability. That's probably the best thing about her. She can lower defense, but overall, I would say Ezreal is nowhere near as good as a Flame Dagger, could be. So that's the reason Ezreal is also very, very low. Next up, in tier 2, we have Julieta. So Julieta is, I would say, right in the middle. Like I said, there are 9. I have 4 in tier 3, 1 in tier 2, and 4 in tier 1. So I would say Julieta is right in the middle. She actually has some content that she could be useful for. But let's talk about her 2 skills. Now, she has an attacking skill and a defense skill that's only for herself. This is a really high defense skill, which is, I think, one of the highest in the game, but it's only for herself. So it's honestly not that great. Again, her first skill is also, it's a good attacking skill, but again, it's just pretty standard for offensive units. Now, the reason Julieta is actually pretty good is because of Slayer Strength and Last Recovery, meaning that she can keep herself alive as well as getting Slayer Strength. So facility events, she's going to be very, very useful because Slayer Strength is so good. Again, every 5 enemies you kill, you gain strength, and you can do it 5 times. So you can get a permanent strength increase of about 30%. Every single quest, technically, facility events, it'll get 30% strength increase for the remainder of the quest, which is actually very strong. Again, she's poison res rather than curse res for the likely high Zodiac, which is coming in the future. So that is a downside. Overall, though, I would say Julieta is better than the other adventures that are ranked in tier 3. So that's the reason I have Julieta here in tier 2. Now let's actually talk about tier 1. These are the best of the best adventures that you can reroll for and out of the original 9. So let's talk about, first of all, Hildegard. Hildegard is a healer, and healers are not super useful in endgame content besides high dragons. Mercurial Gauntlet, you're going to need 4 DPS units, so that's the reason I have Hildegard at the bottom of tier 1, but she is the best healer in the game. So if you get Hildegard, by all means, you can keep her. She will carry you for anything that you need healing in, so she is extremely good for healing. But again, for Mercurial Gauntlet in specific, you're going to need 4 DPS units, so that's the reason I have Hildegard at the bottom. But again, she's the best healer in the game. If you get her, you can keep her. She's insanely good. She, if you have her, again, she's also curse res, and I believe she heals curse, so she is probably going to be very good for high Zodiac once it is released, as well as skill prep plus 100%. Everything about her is just really, really good. So that's why she's the best healer in the game, and again, a great target for rerolling, and she has that waifu status. Next up, we have Maribel. Maribel deals insane DPS. She is a wand, I believe it's wand. I keep getting wands and staffs mixed up, but she deals really good DPS, as well as her first skill dropping the enemy's defense by 5%. This is a debuff, just like Ezreal has the debuff, but this one is a much better debuff, than Ezreal's. So she also has 2 attacking skills, which pairs really nicely with not only her co-ability of skill damage plus 8%, but she has a full HP equals skill damage plus 40%, as well as a skill prep plus 100%. These 2 in combination with her 2 attacking skills, possibly 3 attacking skills, it depends on what weapon you're using, is actually very, very nice, and she deals a ton of damage. Again, Bogre is great for high Mercury, which is what endgame content she is useful for. That is Maribel. Next up, we have the King. Make way for the King, Xander. He is the other adventurer that I mentioned earlier, how Zainfried is good for facility events, but there's a better adventurer for facility events, and that is Xander. He's a sword, which is probably the most basic weapon type in the game, but it's a very strong weapon type because it breaks 4 strikes fast. Again, he's water, which is good for high Brunhilde, but he has stun res rather than burn res, so that is a big downside. Again, he's a sword, meaning his 4 strikes will be really good and break the overdrive bar of bosses, as well as having a 4 strike plus 50% ability already, so he completely obliterates bosses 4 strikes bars, as well as having striker strength, which again, he is already going to be using 4 strikes as a sword, as well as his ability increases 4 strikes, and then striker strength, increases your strength by 6% for every 3 enemies defeated with 4 strikes, up to 5 times per quest. Just like Julieta, he gets a 30% permanent strength increase in facility events or any event with a lot of enemies, really, and that helps him so much in terms of DPS. Again, he obliterates any boss's overdrive bar. I believe Xander has cleared every single facility event this far, even wind facility events. So Xander, that just goes to show right away how really good Xander is. Again, he has 2 attacking skills, and they're both very good. His first skill, deals more damage with buffs that he has, and he can stack his own buffs on him. So that's why Xander is amazing. And for Mercurial Gauntlet as well, very, very good unit. Last but not least, we have, I would say, the best out of the original 9 adventures, and that is Mikoto. Mikoto is a blade, meaning his co-ability is plus 10% strength, which is down there. But let's talk about his 2 skills again. One attacking skill, which changes a little bit and deals more damage depending on how many times you use it in a row and how fast you do it. Then his second skill increases how fast he deals attacks for 10 seconds. Very good for offense. Again, strength plus 10% helps the entire team, so very, very good code ability. And then finally, he has Stun Res, which is great for high mid-guards armor, which is what endgame content he's going to be useful for, as well as being a built-in crit machine. His DPS is one of the highest in Flame. I believe he's second highest DPS in Flame, so absolutely insane. Mikoto can carry you through pretty much every content that requires Flame adventures, especially if they need, Stun Res. So that's why Mikoto is number 1. Again, anyone in tier 1 is amazing. All these 4 adventures are absolutely insane. They could all make a case for being the number 1 adventure out of the original 9. Julieta is, again, a great one. I would kind of put Julieta in tier 3, but there's not really enough slots to put her in tier 3. Again, these adventures in tier 3 are just not as good as the ones in tier 1, but again, they are still useful. They can still be used. Just in the endgame content, they are not the greatest, and they are outshined, especially by these, tier 1 adventures. So that is actually going to be the video. Again, let me know what your thoughts are out of the original 9 5-stars. That's the main point of this video. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Are these your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3? What is your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3? What do you think? What do you think people should re-roll for if they are re-rolling? Again, the main idea is go for strength dragons at 5-star rarity, since you can clear pretty much everything with lower rarity adventurers. So that is everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a great day, and until next time, have a nice trip.